The first images of war are the easiest to grasp. Fire in the sky, aircraft in the dark, explosions captured at a distance. They suggest a simple story. One side strikes, the other absorbs the blow. The stronger military prevails.
Shut on your guy.
What happens when the world's most powerful military wins battle after battle, but begins running short of the weapons required to fight the next war? That is the question beneath this conflict. Not whether the United States can strike Iran, it can. Not whether American forces remain overwhelmingly capable. They do. The deeper question is what this war may be consuming behind the headlines.
This report examines the visible war and the one underneath it. The first is dramatic and immediate. The second is slower, less visible, and potentially more consequential. What the public sees is the front edge of modern combat. Aircraft, missiles, drones, air defenses, precision strikes against military targets. These are the images that dominate coverage because they are legible at a glance.
But advanced warfare is not sustained by spectacle. It is sustained by inventories, maintenance cycles, transport networks, and production lines that rarely make the opening montage.
Behind every launch is a system. A missile must be stored, moved, maintained, matched with trained crews, and replaced after use. A modern precision weapon is not a simple round of ammunition. It is a chain of specialized components, software, propulsion, electronics, testing, certification, and delivery.
Money matters, but money is not the same thing as availability. In war, what matters is whether a weapon exists in usable numbers, in the right place, at the right time, and can be replenished before the next demand arrives.
That is the hidden war of consumption and replacement. And in a prolonged conflict, it can shape strategy as surely as battlefield success.
One of the first questions is offensive missile use. Public reporting and analyst assessments have focused on specialized long-range precision systems, including weapons in the ATACMS and next-generation precision strike missile category.
Here, the distinction between fact and estimate matters. Exact operational inventories are classified. Governments do not publish real-time counts of their most valuable munitions, but public assessments, congressional testimony, procurement records, and independent analysis can still show the outlines of pressure.
The picture that emerges is not one of disarmament. The United States is not out of missiles. The concern is narrower and more serious than that. Some niche, high-demand precision weapons may be used faster than they are comfortably replaced.
In practical terms, that means the margin begins to shrink. Not the margin for one strike package, but the margin that gives planners flexibility across multiple contingencies.
Replacing advanced missiles is not like restocking a warehouse shelf. These systems depend on specialized parts, skilled labor, regulated handling, testing capacity, and limited production lines. Some bottlenecks sit with propulsion, others sit with electronics, materials, or final integration.
Even when funding is available, production moves at industrial speed. Months for some systems, longer for others. In certain categories, rebuilding can take years, especially if peacetime capacity was designed for steady procurement rather than wartime surge.
That changes the meaning of time in war. A successful strike can be measured in minutes. Replacing the weapon that made it possible may take a very different calendar.
And striking Iran is only half of the equation. Retaliation imposes its own cost. Iranian ballistic missiles and drones have forced the United States and its partners to rely on layered air and missile defense, from land-based systems to ship-borne interceptors.
Air defense can be highly effective and still place serious strain on inventory. Those two facts are not contradictory.
The strategic problem is straightforward. An attacker may launch a relatively inexpensive drone or missile. The defender may answer with a much more sophisticated interceptor. Not every engagement works that way, and cost alone does not determine doctrine. But repeated demand can still favor the attacker.
The result is a war measured not only in targets destroyed, but in magazines emptied, launch cells consumed, and replacement schedules accelerated. That is where this conflict begins to matter beyond Iran.
The numbers matter here, but so does discipline. Independent defense analysts estimate that some Patriot and THAAD inventories have been significantly stressed during the conflict. Exact operational totals remain classified. What can be said with confidence is narrower. The United States remains militarily dominant, but certain specialized interceptors and precision weapons may be leaving the inventory faster than industry can rebuild comfortable margins.
That matters because American military capacity is not stored in one giant warehouse waiting for a single emergency. It is distributed across regions, missions, and alliances. And once a conflict begins consuming high-demand systems, pressure appears elsewhere.
Ukraine is the clearest example. Not every shortage facing Kyiv can be traced to Iran. That would overstate the case, but finite inventories and production lines create competition among commitments. Missiles sent to one theater cannot be available in another. Factory output directed to urgent replenishment in the Middle East is output that cannot move somewhere else at the same time.
So the issue is not abandonment, it is allocation. How much can Washington sustain for partners abroad while also protecting American forces and rebuilding its own stocks?
From there, the investigation reaches its most serious strategic question. What happens if another crisis begins before these inventories are restored? A Pacific contingency would demand many of the same scarce categories already under pressure. Long-range missiles, interceptors, ships, aircraft, drones, satellites, fuel, and logistics stretched across immense distances.
This is not a prediction of imminent war with China. It is a deterrence question. Deterrence works when a potential adversary believes the United States has enough ready capability in enough places to make aggression fail or become prohibitively costly.
Beijing does not need Washington to lose in Iran to learn from the strain. A prolonged conflict can still create strategic opportunity by dividing attention, inventories, transport capacity, and decision time across multiple theaters. That is not evidence of an imminent Chinese move. It is evidence that overextension itself can become a vulnerability.
Which brings the story back home. The United States can authorize vast sums of money, but money does not instantly create trained workers, hardened facilities, rocket motors, microelectronics, secure supply chains, or test capacity. Appropriations move faster than factories. Political urgency moves faster than certification, and battlefield demand usually moves faster than both.
Defense manufacturers are expanding production. Contracts can be accelerated. Lines can be widened. New investments can help. But regeneration still happens at industrial speed, not at the speed of a breaking news cycle. That is the central constraint.
So the real question is not whether America can defeat Iran in a conventional fight. The deeper question is whether the United States can sustain a high-intensity war while preserving credible deterrence elsewhere. Stockpiles shape production, production shapes deterrence, and deterrence, if it weakens, can invite the very crises those stockpiles were meant to prevent. The United States still possesses extraordinary military power. But wars are not fought with potential power. They are fought with weapons, factories, logistics, and time. And right now, Washington is learning how quickly even a superpower can consume those resources. The war may be happening in Iran, but its consequences could reach much farther.